Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
I thank you very much for inviting me here today.
Jeremy Corbyn's speech focused on energy, Europe, rail prices, no mention of Trident, which he's campaigned against his whole career. The issue is, not all of his MPs agree with him.
My view at the moment is that the case in favour of retaining is stronger than the case against, but I think it's important that we review this and we look at all the options.
I'm in favour of keeping our nuclear deterrent. I think it's important for keeping our country safe. It's Labour Party policy. I hope it will stay that way.
Have you had an argument with Jeremy about it yet? Definitely arguing with Jeremy this week, the boss of the GMB union, who says that building new subs will safeguard thousands of jobs in places like Barrow, where they're built.
If anybody thinks that unions like the GMB are going to go quietly into the night while tens of thousands of our members' jobs are literally swanned away by rhetoric, then they've got another shock coming.
Meet the woman who's got to reconcile the two tribes, the Shadow Defence Secretary Emily Thornberry, a critic of Trident, who's doing the party's defence review. But it's turning into a row about how Labour makes policy. On one side, the people who feel the decision should be made by a vote here at the party conference.
We have a national policy forum process that then those papers go to our conference and are voted on, and are not just decided by MPs. Involve trade unionists, involve affiliated organisations and party members.
John Landsman, who campaigns for a bigger role for party activists and founded the Corbynite group Momentum, hints at a shortcut. So Labour Party policy on Trident could have changed by the summer?
Well, we will have had some process to consider our policy before the summer. Yes, obviously, we have to.
So Labour Party policy, when it comes to a vote by the summer, could be voting against the renewal of Trident?
Look, I know that you're trying to get me to say very briefly, so something very quick about how policy is made in the Labour Party. The trouble is, it's quite a complex process. Policy is ultimately decided by party conference in Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party. But if we have to take quicker decisions, we have to do it by other methods.
That might drive some Labour people into meltdown. It could be war, not just over whether Labour supports the renewal of Trident, but also who gets to make the decision.
And with me now, the Shadow Defence Secretary, Emily Thornberry. Welcome to the Sunday Politics in your new job. Did you drop Ken Livingstone from your defence review?
No, it was going to be my review. When I spoke to Jeremy about it, I said that it was an honour to take this job, an extraordinary job, to be able to shadow a department where people are prepared to put their lives on the line.
But wasn't Ken Livingstone already part of the defence review?
And I said that I would lead this review, and it will be my review. It will feed into an international policy commission, which is co-chaired by Ken Livingstone. That will then feed into the National Policy Forum, and the National Policy Forum will then feed into party conference.
Mr. Livingstone says that on defence matters he had lunch with you and that you both agree on everything on the defence side, so he voluntarily stepped aside. Is that true?
I'm a big fan of Ken Livingstone's, that's not a secret. I'm also against Trident. I come in as a sceptic, but I come in also with the overriding ambition to listen to what people say, to be not afraid to ask difficult questions, and to come to a view on policy on the basis of evidence.
But did he step aside because after the lunch he decided that you both agreed broadly on defence matters?
Jeremy Corbyn put me in charge of this review, and that's what's happening.
Right, I understand, but did Mr. Livingstone step aside, as he is on the record as saying?
He's chair of the commission that I will be feeding my review into.
I understand. Do you agree on everything when it comes to defence?
I agree with a lot that Ken says. I don't agree, for example, that we should pull out of NATO. And indeed, I will not be reviewing this on the basis of us changing any of the international agreements that we're signed up to or any of the international organisations we're signed up to.
So the strategic defence review that you're doing for your party will take place within the context of our continued membership of NATO.
That's right.
And on Trident, Mr. Livingston's against renewing Trident. He supports unilateral nuclear disarmament. That's been your position too, hasn't it?
I think the days of unilateral, multilateral, all this sort of thing is very much from the 1980s. I think what we should be doing is we should be looking at what are the 21st century threats to Britain and how should we best address them. And it seems to me that that is the best way of doing it. So you look at the threats and then you look at what is the best way of addressing that. I think that actually what I am, more than anything else, is I'm a moderniser.
Right, but you voted against the renewal of Trident in 2007.
I did, yeah.
And
do you know what? In the 1980s, I was in favour of Trident because there were two sides. Life was very different, but actually life has moved on since 2007. Life has certainly moved on since the 1980s, and I think that the time has come for us to have a debate about what the 21st century threats are, which does include whether or not the appropriate response is Trident, but it's not the only thing.
What would change your mind back again? What could you be told about Trident that would make you think we should keep it?
Good try. I've had this job for a couple of days. I want to go into it with an open mind and I want to look at the evidence.
But you haven't got an open mind. You don't necessarily have a wrong mind either. You are against Trident.
I'm in favour of making policy on the basis of the evidence that is put before me, and I have already had a very large number of invitations to see people, to talk to them and to be able to pick their brains. And I want to be able to do that, and I want to be able to bring the party with me.
Are you against drone strikes?
No, I'm not. I think that in the future there will be I think the role of drones is likely to increase both undersea and for airstrikes.
When you were Shadow Attorney General, didn't you question their legality under international law?
This is quite difficult because the advice that I gave to the leader's office, first of all, you've got that wrong, but I'm not...
No, I was asking a question, not asserting
all right,
anything.
no, okay. Well, then how can I answer it? Because the trouble is, it's
Well, have you
it's legally,
questioned their legality or not?
There is a difference between their use and their existence. So therefore, no, I can't. I'm so sorry, but it's legally privileged, and I can't talk about advice I gave to the leader.
Well, all right, but you can talk to
I've given enough.
You can talk to the electorate. That would you support the use of drone strikes?
I would support the use of whatever means are necessary in order to keep the British people safe,
including drone strikes.
Within the confines of the law, I would support the use of drone strikes.
When will you complete the review? Do you have an end date when you think I've got to have this done by?
No, I think it really has to take as long as it takes. I don't want my strategic review to be anything like the Tories one, which was very short. You know, they opened a website, they only allowed people to put 200 words in. They didn't really, in my view, look properly at it. So it's going to take as long as it's going to take.
All right.
I have a lot to get over.
I understand that. A lot of subjects, and we've got a bit more ground to cover. We haven't got too much time this morning, though. I hope we'll get a chance to go through on more issues. No, I'd be delighted. In the meantime, it's almost certain there's going to be a major vote, the main gate vote on Trident, which begins the real spending on the renewal sometime in the spring. Now, what will happen to Labour? Will you be whipped to vote in favour of current party policy, which is pro-Trident? Will you be encouraging people to vote against it, or will there be a free vote?
There are a number of things a number of assumptions you've made in that question. The first question is this going to be, are they going to have a vote? Are they going to have a vote in the spring? And what's the vote going to be? You know, will we have found the Treasury and the MOD agreeing on the amount?
Well, otherwise they won't come forward with the main gate proposal.
Well, they might.
That starts all the spending. So if there is a main gate proposal, comes forward to the Commons, how will you vote?
The rumour is that they're not going to have anything more than yet another vote in principle on whether or not we should renew Trident. Now, those people who are very pro-Trident should be very angry about that, because we had a vote about that in 2007. What have they been doing all this time?
How will Labour vote then, even if it's just another vote in principle?
Labour policy is to have a continual at-sea deterrence, but to have a review. We are now in the process of having a review. We need to look at when the vote is, what the vote's about, and then I will have a discussion with Jeremy and the Chief Whip, and at that point a decision will be made.
When it comes...
Jeremy said that he wants to accommodate. Jeremy said that he wants to accommodate differences in views, and I have said that my review has to be done in an atmosphere of mutual trust and respect.
So it'll be a free vote again then, won't it?
It's going to be something that we're going to need to decide with the Chief Whip and the leader of the party.
What do you say to those that say, when it comes to the Trident part of the defence review, that it's a sham, really, that you've replaced Maria Yigo, she was pro-Trident, you've already voted against its renewal, your leader is a lifelong unilateral disarmer, the party grassroots is increasingly hostile to Trident. So the chances of this recommending anything but don't renew Trident is pretty close to zero.
I'm going to begin this review by looking at the threats to Britain, because our overriding responsibility is to make sure that our policy is in line with what keeps Britain safe. So we look at that first and we go from there and we take it as the evidence takes us. Now, that, as far as I'm concerned, is how we're going to approach it. Jeremy has already said, I think that he said in the last few days that it may be that this won't be a binary decision. Things are not necessarily black and white anymore in relation to this. We are not going back to the 1980s.
Well,
this is a modern look at modern threats.
What do you make of this idea that he floated with Andrew Marr this morning, that we could keep Trident, maybe renew Trident, but not put warheads on the missiles?
The Japanese option. Well, that's certainly one that would be available to us, and that's one of the things that needs to be looked at.
What would be the point of having Trident without having
what you would
nuclear
do?
warheads on it?
I'm not saying this is what we're going to do.
No, I understand that. I'm just asking what would be the point.
The way that it works is that the Japanese have got the capability to build a nuclear bomb, or whatever, if heads if they need to.
But they don't have Vanguard submarines.
But you can then put them onto, or you can use them in various delivery forms. So that's a possibility. That is an option.
So we put conventional warheads onto Trident subs, Trident missiles.
I mean, I appreciate that you want me to speculate, and I understand that.
No, it's your leader raised it this morning, otherwise I wouldn't have thought about it.
No, he said there's a number of options, and I say the Japanese already have this as the way that they do
things. If you fire
a
ballistic missile at a country, every early warning ballistic missile system is programmed to assume that's a nuclear attack, because ballistic missiles only carry nuclear weapons. So we would risk a nuclear retaliation for something that we're not using for nuclear weapons. I mean, isn't that really dangerous?
Well, you're very welcome to come and give evidence to my review.
You're the third Labour shadow minister that's invited me to do that. I'm kind of busy on the day job. But do you
it's just the way you ask the questions.
Do you think that the party membership should determine Trident policy, not just be consulted on it, which I know you'll want to do, but should they determine in the end such an important issue?
Party conference will decide what our policy is.
Not a plebiscite of the membership?
I would like to have a review that will have party members feeding into their views in a way that we've not had before.
That's
and I will encourage that.
But they shouldn't determine, you won't in the end have a vote among party members to determine your policy on
Our
this.
rules are that party conference decides our policy.
Right.
And our policy at the moment is to have a review.
Do you think you'll have your ducks in a row, if I can put it that way, in time for this year's party conference to take a definitive decision?
I am going to take as long as it takes to do a proper review. If I can help the National Policy Forum by doing an interim report in advance of party conference, I will do so.
What do you say to the trade union leaders that say you're going to put a lot of thousands of jobs at risk if you don't renew Trident?
I say that I want to listen to what they say, and I say that we need to look at whether or not there are other alternatives, and we need to as I say, look at it. I mean, the people, I understand and I fully respect the concerns that have been raised, and so we need to look to see if there are any solutions to that.
Just a final point. You've taken substantial donations from Lee Day. It's a law firm that supports clients that took the British Army to court on what turned out to be, on an independent inquiry, deliberate and miscalculated lies, wholly and entirely without merit, were the accusations against the Army. You're now Shadow Defence Minister. Should you return that money?
What happened was that Lee Day, which is one of the leading human rights firms in the country, along with a number of other lawyers' firms seconded people to my office, because when you are Shadow Attorney General, you don't have any resources at all.
Sure. You got some cash too, though, didn't you?
No, I didn't get any cash.
You didn't get £14,500 in donations?
No, it's all.
So you got in-kind donations?
So I got very, very good, bright lawyers, and I have returned all of them. And they were very good, and actually they helped us to be a good opposition.
So there's no money to return, even if you want.
There's no money to return, and it was a pleasure to have them in my office, and they were very helpful to the Labour Party, and in turn very helpful to the country in order to make sure that we had a proper opposition. We were summarising legislation, we were helping with clauses, we were giving advice to the Leader's office. This is the sort of thing that you have to do as bread and butter work in the Shadow AG's office. Unfortunately, the government are now even going to cut the money that the opposition even have.
You haven't got the infrastructure to do that. Will you come back and give us an interim report on how the defence review is going?
Anytime.